It is no secret that while creating the fantasy feudal Japan setting of Inuyasha and its sequel YashaHime, most notably with the many demon characters, Takahashi Rumiko drew a lot of inspiration from traditional Japanese folklore. These supernatural creatures are incredibly numerous and varied, generally called yakai in Japanese, but how much of the actual mythology has been transferred into the Yashaverse? We're going to explore some of the yakai featured in Inuyasha and YashaHime today, and how they compare with their folk inspirations. Together with his brother Sesshomaru and other characters, our titular hero is simply known as a dog demon or Inuyakai. Inuyasha himself, since he's a half-demon, is truly humanoid, but the true forms of his full-blooded brother and father are actually giant dogs with long flowing white fur. As for their yakai counterpart, the most notable dog yakai is the Inugami, which does not seem to have that much in common with the creation of Takahashi, at least initially. Inugami are strange yakai who are familiar to sorcerers who create them through a rather grotesque ritual that involves burying a dog up to its neck to drive it from hunger, then decapitating it at its greatest point of despair, burying the head under a busy street so that it cannot rest, creating a maleficent spirit, and then digging the head and preserving it in a jar to evoke it. Inugami, like Japanese dogs, are said to be very loyal and protective to certain individuals, but ambivalent or hostile to others, even turning on weak-minded evokers who try to summon them, similar to the complex generally hostile relationship with humans of Inuyasha and Sesshomaru, while protecting Kagome and Rin respectively. It is actually probable, however, that Takahashi took more inspiration from Chinese dog spirits called Jianggu heavenly dogs, which resemble the true forms of the dog demon. In Japan, these mythical creatures became tengu, which are portrayed with more bird-like characteristics, perhaps to fit better with their ability to fly through the air. Tengu are known to be masters of swordsmanship and magic and appear in Japanese folklore frequently, perhaps most famously with the white-haired Tengu King Sojibo, who taught Minamoto no Yoshitsune, a semi-legendary samurai. In any event, Inuyasha's and YashaHime's dog demons seem to draw from Inugami, Jianggu, and Tengu. Characters like Shippo and Hachiman, who draw from kitsune, fox, and tanuki, raccoon dog, yakai, respectively, can find some more direct inspirations. Both of these yakai are known as tricksters who use magic to transform themselves and other objects using different tools, as made famous by Animal Crossing, especially leaves for tanuki. This is very much reflected in both characters who often transform or use different illusions, such as the foxfire of Shippo, which is probably inspired by kitsunebi, which is supernatural blue or green fires that are often said to be lighting for kitsune weddings. The frequent difficulty of Shippo in getting rid of his tail in transformations is also commonly part of kitsune myths, and Hachiman's greater ability to refer to the famous phrase "the fox has 7 disguises, the tanuki has 8, along with his name that contains hachi, meaning 8. Karara and Entei, who are quite comparable to each other in being partially flaming demon animals that can somehow fly through the air, are some other demons of note in Inuyasha. Karara, as evidenced by her 2 tails, is based on Nekomata yakai, but is a friendly and loyal companion, instead of the malevolent folklore Nekomata. It is said that Nekomata come from ordinary cats who live to be very old, becoming yakai after splitting their tails into 2. Nekomata, along with necromantic powers to raise and control the dead, has the ability to create fire and transform into a larger form, like Karara. Before making their way to the mountains, they often set fires and devour their owners and townspeople. On the other hand, Entei, unless you want to count the Shishikamenu, lion dog-like Pokemon of the same name, does not seem to have a clear yakai link, but may be inspired by the Greek war god Ares' fire-breathing horses. Phlogios, Phobos, Athon and Kanabos. Like many of the characters we have discussed so far, many of the demons featured in Inuyasha and YashaHime are inspired by folklore, but they do not necessarily precisely follow their traditional depictions or are entirely original creations just done in the style of yakai. This does not really cause any problems for the series and interesting combinations, considering how numerous and varied real yakai are. Just add more variety like Naruku's mind-reading incarnation Gishinki, whose powers are likely to be drawn from Satori while having a very Oni-like appearance. It is also worth noting that, traditionally, with the possible exceptions of the super-strong golden boy folk hero Kintaro and famous mystic Abe no Seimei, who are sometimes said to have a dragon father and kitsune mother respectively, there are no half-demons in the Inuyasha style. There are also many yakai tales involving magical wives, such as Yuki-onna, where a man has children with a female yakai, but in these instances, it seems that their children are normal humans when the yakai turns into a human. Together the feudal fairy tales of Inuyasha and YashaHime strike a balance between tradition and originality when it comes to creating a rich variety of yakai characters, especially with their half-demon characters, that extends to folklore. Although many are probably less spooky, or at least less graphically violent, than some of their inspirations, these yakai are nevertheless a fun and memorable part of their series. What are some of your favorite yakai featured on Inuyasha around the world? Let us know in the comments section below.